On my deathbed, my husband stood in front of my sickbed and confessed that he had a child with his first love outside. If it weren't for you, Venus wouldn't have a lame leg. We owe her a child. But don't worry. Except for this child, I've never crossed the line. My son also tried to persuade me, Mom. Because of you, Venus and Dad missed out on a lifetime together. Can't you even forgive Dad for this? They stood by the bedside looking at me, making me feel like an outsider. I was so angry that I had a heart attack and failed to be rescued. When I opened my eyes again, I actually went back 30 years. The young deceiver stared at me, Phoenix. Although you're not pretty and have little education, I'm willing to marry you. This time, I pushed his hand away. I'm not willing. The time when I was reborn wasn't ideal. When I woke up, I had already been rescued from the river by Deceiver. I was completely soaked and leaning disheveled in Deceiver's arms. As a child of the compound of the cotton mill, I knew I was in a really embarrassing situation this time. Sure enough, more and more people gathered around. The posture between me and Deceiver made those people point and talk. Hey, isn't this Phoenix? The daughter of Phoenix's father? Is the one who saved her Deceiver? The educated youth who went to the countryside? TSK. TSK, HSK. TSK. How could this child be so careless? Being rescued by a man like this. How will she find a partner in the future? After all, in this conservative era, if a man and a woman looked at each other one more time, they would be gossiped about. In public, being in such close physical contact with Deceiver like this, it would surely be known to everyone in today's. And I would be labeled as immoral. Deceiver's brows furrowed more and more tightly. And he looked down at me and asked, Miss, are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the health center? Or should I take you home directly? In my previous life, I was grateful and shyly said okay. I then muddled along and took him to my home. And married him. It was almost a lightning-fast marriage. But at this moment, I had just been knocked unconscious and dizzy by the river water. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Deceiver's face. Remembering the words he had said not long ago, my heart was in turmoil. Just as he tried to put his coat on me, I pushed him away. Finally, having fulfilled me, I couldn't hold it back and vomited with a loud wow. After vomiting, I wiped my face, and my tone was full of politeness and alienation. Don't bother. I can walk back by myself. Like a drowned rat, I rubbed my head and walked towards home. On the way, having fulfilled my exhaustion, I slapped my head hard, trying to pour out the water that had entered my head in my previous life along with it. In my previous life, even though I knew there were many eyes and ears in the cotton mill, I still tried every means to ask him out to meet. After marriage, he gradually became cold towards me. I told myself, marriage is the tomb of love. Even if the love faded, as long as the marriage was still there, it was okay. At least I still had a home. Until one day, Deceiver, who was approaching retirement, came home reeking of alcohol in the middle of the night again. I felt sorry for him and cooked him a bowl of hot soup to sober him up. You drank so much again. Your health is the most important. Fortunately, hadn't fulfilled my. Our son is as promising as you. He's about to be promoted to section chief. Grandma was so happy that she rarely found fault during dinner. He pushed the soup bowl away, splashing it all over my hand. Several blisters immediately formed on my forearm. Enough. You know all the pressure at home is on me. So can't you shut up for a while? He mumbled. I might as well have chosen Venus in the first place. I knew who Venus was. She was an educated youth who went to the countryside with Deceiver. She had a lame leg and lived alone with her daughter. I pitied her hardships. So I always asked Deceiver to take our son and some food and toys to their place to cheer them up. Could it be? I was so excited that I fainted. When I woke up on the sickbed, the 4 members of their family stood in front of me. Deceiver looked at the old me expressionlessly. Phoenix, do you know that Venus's leg was crippled when she was hit by a car in a trance on the day we got married? We owe her. Is it wrong to give her a child? Except for this child. I've never crossed the line in my life. Aren't you satisfied yet? My son also persuaded me, Mom. Even Grandma knows about the harm you caused to Venus. But not only does Venus not blame you, but she also has been tutoring me with my schoolwork, knowing that you have little education. Even my current good job was introduced by Venus. Can you do that? Mom, your critical illness notice has already been issued. Dad just wants your understanding. Is that too much to ask? No. I can't. I was in so much pain that my whole body was in spasms. Was my whole life, which I thought was hard but worth it, actually like this? Deceiver. You've lied to me all my life. The final conclusion is that I'm the one who's sorry for Venus. Right? Before pushing the door open, I shook out the last drop of water from my ears. As soon as I entered the door, my parents were startled by my embarrassed appearance. They served me tea and water and showed their concern. After changing my clothes and coming to the living room, my father was smoking, which was a rare sight. Phoenix, the college entrance examination is about to be restored. I heard that the educated youth named Deceiver has already signed up. This is a good opportunity. If you can also go to college, Dad will sell everything he has to send you there. Remembering that in my previous life, I could smile and say, it's the same whether Deceiver goes or I go. I really wanted to slap myself awake. My nose was sore, and I finally couldn't hold back my tears. My father felt so sorry for me and hugged me. What's wrong with you? Daughter? Don't you want to take the exam? My mother wiped my tears. It doesn't matter. If you don't want to take the exam, then don't. Mom and Dad won't force you. As long as you're happy. Phoenix. How could my parents know why I was crying? When my son was in poor health as a child, it was my mother who took care of him day and night. Deceiver lost his father when he was young and his family was poor. My father used the last 300 yuan in his hand as the startup capital for the two of us. But in the end, when my father had cancer and needed surgery, his good son-in-law pretended to be on a business trip and took Venus and her daughter on a trip. And at that time, I could only cry by my father's sickbed. I looked at my father in front of me. Calm down. And said firmly, it's nothing. I wasn't paying attention while riding my bike on the way and fell into a ditch. Dad. Mom. I'll take the exam. I thought there wouldn't be any more idle gossip. But unexpectedly, 2 days later, the rumors about me and Deceiver still spread throughout the residential compound. And I saw Deceiver again. My father invited him to our house to thank him for saving my life and was extremely enthusiastic in his words. My father promised at the dinner table, Deceiver, once you and Phoenix get married, Uncle will help you secure the quota to return to the city. Deceiver was overjoyed. Thank you, Feng. Phoenix's father. Don't worry. I swear I'll be good to Phoenix for the rest of my life. Look how nervous I am. Please excuse me. Please excuse me. Huh. Trying to hide the truth. When we were old, he would once again blame me for making him lose the chance to grow old with his beloved, right? I saw him out. And my mind chewed over his ridiculous words from my previous life. And I even laughed unconsciously. What are you laughing at? He stopped. What are you laughing at? Nothing. I looked at him and said rudely. I'm thinking about a mad dog. He hesitated to speak and finally left. In this life, I'm not enthusiastic about him at all. But instead, he keeps lingering around me. I would run into him when I went to work in the factory, when I strolled in the department store, and even when I went to my father's office. And the rumors about the two of us in the factory became more and more exaggerated. However, Deceiver also cared about his reputation. Even so, he still wouldn't show the slightest bit of affection for me. As if he was still waiting for me to take the initiative. He really thought too highly of himself. The more he did this, the more I tried to avoid him. I knew that I could afford to wait, but he couldn't. The time for him to leave the village was limited, and with Venus around, he couldn't stay for long. Sure enough, once when I got off work, he took the initiative to stop me halfway. He couldn't stand it anymore. Phoenix. Have you heard the rumors about us in the factory? He looked down at me. Very close to me. I saw a white dress flash past the corner of the wall. Goodness, having so fell wide sigh. Venus was actually there too. Did Deceiver bring her? Or did she follow on her own? Deceiver looked down at me. As if he had made a certain decision. Phoenix. Although you're not pretty and have little education, I'm willing to marry you. I was stunned by his thick skin. But he mistakenly thought that I was so happy that I forgot to react, and he even reached out to pull me. But unexpectedly, I pushed his hand away. I'm not willing. His astonishment was evident. You. Aren't you afraid that without me, you won't be able to get married? If I can't get married, I'll devote myself to socialist construction. There are more ways to live in this society, and just getting married. I looked at him sarcastically, as if looking at a big fool. As for you, Deceiver, since you know I'm not excellent, why do you still want to marry me? Is it that I'm the only woman in the world? Deceiver was left speechless by my words. The next second, there was a sudden noise from the corner, and then a girl's shrill scream came. I knew that corner. All kinds of old machines were stacked together. It was normal for Venus to bump into something. I just didn't know if it was intentional or accidental. The girl in the white dress stumbled out from the corner. She covered her bleeding palm and looked at Deceiver pitifully. Brother Deceiver. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I just passed by chance. Brother Deceiver. It hurts. Deceiver glanced at me awkwardly, and his attention was soon drawn by Venus's cry of pain. He looked at me. This is an educated youth from our village. This time, she came back to the city with me to handle some affairs. Yeah. So what? I nodded and was about to leave, but he stopped me. Deceiver seemed a bit dissatisfied with my ignoring them. He pursed his lips and still had the nerve to ask, Phoenix, can you take us to the health clinic? You can go by yourself. Just ask for directions if you don't know the way. I turned around and left after saying that. I had no interest in paying attention to the play they were acting out. I thought that since I had made it so clear, and Deceiver was such a person who cared about his reputation, he would surely give up in the face of difficulties. But unexpectedly, he still didn't give up. And this time, the one who came to find me was actually Venus. In my previous life, my deepest memory of Venus was when she came to the hospital to see me on my deathbed. The woman who had lived a pampered life all her life still had smooth and glossy fingers. She lifted the hand that I had used to do housework all my life, and her eyes were full of mockery. Phoenix. So what if he's your legal husband for life? He has pity on me, takes care of me, and has never let me touch cold water all my life. His mother dotes on me, and his son clings to me. But what have you got? Her gentle words were like knives stabbing at my heart. So much so that when I saw her this time, I instinctively felt nauseous. However, Venus was completely unaware of all this. With a pair of watery eyes and an expression on the verge of tears, she said, Sister Phoenix, have you misunderstood me and Brother Deceiver? There is only pure friendship between us two. Please don't think too much about it. Pure friendship. As soon as these words came out, I didn't know whether Venus was defiling the word pure or friendship. In fact, I understood Venus's thoughts. In order to return to the city and for his future, Deceiver must marry me. She knew this very well, but still wasn't willing to accept it. This time she came to me, ostensibly to explain, but actually to show her power. These two people had too much drama, which was long and unpleasant. Venus was still gently and patiently explaining her friendship with Deceiver. I interrupted her impatiently. Have you finished? I'm leaving if you have. In an instant, Venus grabbed me. I instinctively shook off her hand. The next second, Phoenix. What are you doing? Deceiver walked over angrily and pulled Venus over. Venus is explaining to you nicely. Why are you being so rude to her? I looked at the man and woman in front of me in surprise, and my originally dead heart actually felt wronged. She insisted on grabbing me to give some useless explanation, and I didn't want to listen. Was I in the wrong for that? Deceiver. I don't have to listen to everyone. I smiled and said, since you're here too, I might as well make it clear to both of you. I had no relationship with you in the past, have no relationship with you now, and there won't be the slightest relationship in the future. You'd better not come to me again, or I'll let everyone in the factory know that you're harassing me. After that day, Deceiver and Venus disappeared from my sight for several days. But even though they were gone, the rumors in the factory became more and more widespread. Some said that Deceiver and I were about to get married, And Deceiver was going to become Phoenix's father's ideal son-in-law and rise to prominence from then on. Others said that I was snobbish, ungrateful to Deceiver, and a heartless person. I was busy collecting books for the college entrance examination every day and didn't have time to pay attention. However, my father heard all these rumors. One day, he even asked me directly, "Daughter, if you have any misunderstandings with Deceiver, just talk it out. Don't hold it in. I think that kid is quite good." I looked at my father helplessly. "Dad, he's almost like a stranger to me. What do we need to talk out?" My father paused, and finally couldn't help but say, "Although the Deceiver family's conditions aren't good, that kid is well educated and reasonable. I think he's good. Besides, didn't he save you before?" I put down the book in my hand and finally realized how serious my father was. He really wanted me to marry Deceiver. If I didn't really clear up the matter of Deceiver saving me, my father would never give up. "Fine, Wanijisu, I'll make it clear to him face to face." I made an appointment with Deceiver in the factory cafeteria. Deceiver seemed to have expected that I would make an appointment with him. When we met, there was actually a triumphant smile on his face. It seemed that I had been throwing a tantrum for all these days, and he had graciously forgiven me. But I wasn't polite to him. As soon as I sat down, I said, "Deceiver, did you spread those rumors outside just to make me come out and have a meal with you?" His smile froze on his face. "I didn't." I interrupted him and asked for soul-searching questions. "Regarding the matter that you saved me before, I've already thanked you. But that river was only up to my thighs. Even if you didn't save me, I could have climbed out, right? Moreover, it's a new society now. Just because of that, do I have to marry you? I only asked you up this time to ask you. That river is at the very back of the staff housing area, and it's not on the way to your home or the administrative office area. Why did you pass by there? Were you really just passing by at that time? Or was there some other hidden reason?" The people around couldn't help but whisper, "That's true. That river is so remote. Why did Deceiver suddenly appear there? Could he have secretly followed Phoenix and wanted to do something? When he saw her accidentally step on air, he rushed to save her? Maybe he even pushed her into the river in the first place." Deceiver's face turned completely cold. He was originally aloof. At this moment, he wanted to argue, but didn't know what to say. Perhaps even more so, he was feeling guilty. I picked up the enamel lunchbox in front of me. "I won't have a meal with you this time. Next time, if you like another girl, don't stage a self-directed and self-acted drama of a hero saving the beauty. Okay? If you don't have the ability to save someone, at least have the ability not to cause trouble for a girl." The conversation between Deceiver and me was quickly spread throughout the entire factory area, with embellishments added. My father was extremely angry after hearing about it. He even wanted to report it to the security department to find out if Deceiver had pushed me into the river. I stopped him. Deceiver was indeed following me. But I don't think he had the guts to push me into the river and then deliberately save me. As for the matter of murder, I had no evidence and couldn't say that to the security department. However, doing this was indeed effective. Deceiver didn't dare to come to me again. And when he wanted to visit other leaders, he was turned away. The leave he had taken to handle the matter of returning to the city soon expired, and he could only go back with Venus in disappointment. However, before that, I wasn't idle either. I went to meet Venus once. She no longer hid her jealousy and malice towards me and questioned whether I had deliberately embarrassed Deceiver. I gently replied, "I know in my heart that Deceiver approached me in order to return to the city. I don't like him, but I feel sorry for love and for you." Her eyes instantly turned red. "What do you know? He had no choice." I handed her a silk scarf. It was soft and smooth. This was a trendy item from the south, and it's old for 10 yuan in the department store. She looked at me in confusion but didn't immediately refuse. I said, "A person like Deceiver, even if he can't return to the city this time, is by no means an ordinary person. I have an issue with him. But I just think that his bright future shouldn't be achieved at the cost of your love. The next time I see him, I hope that the one by his side isn't someone else but you." Venus seemed to be deep in thought and finally clenched the silk scarf in her hand. I knew that no woman could resist that silk scarf. Venus couldn't resist the silk scarf. And even more so, she couldn't resist the temptation of being Deceiver's legitimate wife. She was never a simple-minded woman. Next, it was up to her. After Deceiver and Venus left, my life became much easier. The news of the college entrance examination soon spread. This was a big event in the factory area. Whether they were still in high school or had already been working for several years, everyone was eager to take the exam. Among them, there were also those who heard that I had study materials and came to curry favor with me. For those who came to ask for the materials, I generously shared them. However, it was inconvenient to make copies in this era, so those who were diligent copied the materials into their notebooks, while some who were lazy became slack after copying for a few days. Among these people, Deceiver's biological mother was the most brazen. As soon as she came in, she grabbed my hand to get on friendly terms with me. Her words implied that she regarded me as her daughter-in-law, but I remembered that in my previous life, when I proposed taking the college entrance examination, she had a disdainful look on her face. Phoenix, look on her face. I'm not trying to dampen your enthusiasm, but not everyone can take the college entrance examination. Besides, you have a child now, and I'm not in good health. There are a lot of things to deal with at home. Please don't cause trouble. Okay? Thinking of the grudges from my previous life, Leslie pulled out my hand. Auntie, this is the first time I've met you. If you have something to say, just say it. Then she smiled and said that she wanted to borrow materials for Deceiver. But although she said she wanted to borrow materials, unlike others who could copy them at my place, she said that her eyesight was poor and she couldn't copy things, and asked me to give the materials directly to her. I smiled and said, Auntie, I'm busy myself and can't spend the time copying materials for others. You know, when others come to borrow materials, they copy them themselves. Deceiver's mother became a bit anxious at this time. Is Deceiver someone else? What's the relationship between him and you? And what's the relationship between others and you? People outside are all saying that you two will be a family sooner or later. Why won't you help him? I sneered and looked at the former mother-in-law in front of me. I don't know what the relationship between him and me is. According to what you said, then I definitely can't help him. Deceiver's mother left angrily. I didn't bother to pay attention to her. I went to work during the day and used the materials I had collected before to seriously prepare for the college entrance examination at night, and the result of the college entrance examination lived up to my efforts. I was admitted to a key university in the north, and was about to go north to study. It was a university that even Deceiver in my previous life couldn't get into. My father was so happy that his face beamed with joy. As soon as the admission notice arrived, he invited several tables of people to celebrate. The results of other people in the factory area also came out one after another. Some did well in the exam, and some who didn't do well planned to take the exam again next year. And Deceiver's name was only casually mentioned once, and then no one mentioned it again. He failed the exam. Have you heard? There was no shortage of gossips in the factory staff housing area. Venus is pregnant before marriage. With whom? Who else could it be? Deceiver. Of course. In this conservative era, pregnant before marriage was a terrifying term. What's more, it happened when they hadn't been able to leave the small mountain village yet. And Venus actually put this term into practice herself in order to keep this man. I don't feel pity for her, but I'm shocked by the love in her heart. Perhaps, in the previous life, Venus was truly in love with Deceiver, and Deceiver kept her outside, taking meticulous care of her, providing her with a life free from material worries. And that subtle sense of indebtedness nourished the love in her heart for a lifetime. However, without all those things, could the love between her and him still bloom as beautifully? I don't know, but I'm looking forward to them giving me an answer. Without the constraints of Deceiver and Venus, my college life was fulfilling and enjoyable. I majored in my favorite medical profession. I was busy every day, and the days passed by quickly like flowing water. Before graduation, we were all busy with our theses. But one day, on our way to the cafeteria, we were stopped by Deceiver's mother, who had managed to track me down here. She grabbed my arm and forced a smile, saying, "Phoenix, You're really amazing. It's my fault for being old and muddle-headed and not keeping him in line. I can't believe my son didn't marry you, chose this little slut instead. It turned out that because of the scandal of Deceiver and Venus having a child out of wedlock, there was no way for them to even think about returning to the city. They could only stay in the small mountain village to have the baby. Venus gave birth, and Deceiver's mother went to the small mountain village to take care of her during the confinement period. In less than half a month, she completely broke down. Phoenix. You have no idea. I've really had enough. There's no door in the rural latrine. And big white maggots often crawl out of the cesspool. There's no running water either. I have to take a pile of diapers stained with feces and journey to the river to wash them every 2 days. The most excessive thing is my useless daughter-in-law. She doesn't want to do anything. Whenever there's something, she just holds the baby and acts pitiful. My dear son is turning a blind eye. He didn't come home for several days. TSK. 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 I didn't expect that without me. The love between Deceiver and Venus in this life would be like this. It sounds quite interesting. I gave a faint smile and casually shook off her hand. You came to me for something? Deceiver's mother smiled obsequiously. Phoenix. You have a good family upbringing and are capable. Our Deceiver can't get you out of his mind. He was even calling your name in his sleep the other night. How about you? I waved my hand to interrupt her chattering. I'm a medical student. If you're not here to see a doctor, please don't come to me again. Oh, right. Even if you want to see a doctor, you can't get an appointment with me. I don't treat brain diseases. Then I turned around and left. I had already been assigned to a big hospital in the city and would start working after graduation. I was really busy. After starting to work in the hospital, I would meet old neighbors from the factory in my consulting room every now and then. For example, Aunt Qui, an old accountant who used to work under my father. As soon as Aunt Qui saw me, she exclaimed, "No wonder I've always thought you were smart since you were a kid. You're so good at judging people. I always thought that Deceiver your father thought highly of wasn't reliable." See? I was right. Wasn't I? I suddenly wanted to confirm the truth of what Deceiver's mother had said from the side. With a faint smile, I said, "Aunt Qui, you're the most well-informed. Have you heard anything?" It turned out that after 4 years of married life, the relationship between Deceiver and Venus was no longer as good as it used to be. But Venus still seemed to be afraid that Deceiver would be snatched away by someone else. So she clung to him and didn't want to return to the city. This time they came back only because Deceiver had finally said some harsh words, and then brought her and the child back together. Deceiver has been trying everywhere to find connections and get a stable job. It's really funny. Who would pay attention to him? Is he out of his mind? That's right. After all, through my publicity, his true face of wanting to marry into a wealthy family and take over their property was already well known. Which leader would be willing to give such a person a chance? Deceiver had nowhere to settle down and had no income. So the family of 3 had to squeeze into a small 1-bedroom apartment with his mother. But the family of 4 could only live on Deceiver's mother's pension. How could it be enough for food, clothing, housing, and daily necessities, as well as milk powder and diapers? Aunt Qui also said that there were often quarrels between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law in Deceiver's family. Once, having so felt wide sour, they even beat the delicate Venus and sent her to the hospital. It's really like speaking of cow and cow arrives. Shortly after Aunt Qui left, Deceiver came with his current wife. Deceiver was still wearing that common white shirt, but the collar and cuffs were stained with yellowish sweat marks. And there were also some unknown stains on the clothes. Where was the appearance of the once gentle scholar? And Venus, who used to wear a white dress, was now casually dressed in a jacket. She looked haggard, with messy hair, and was holding the hand of a sallow and emaciated little girl. The 2 of them seemed to be bickering. Neither of them wanted to look at the other, but when they turned their heads, they saw me. I was wearing a white coat and walking up the stairs. Just then, Venus impulsively shouted at Deceiver, "Your mother said I should have another child, but after I gave birth, didn't she just want to shirk her responsibilities? Now she doesn't even come to see Daisy when she's sick. She still wants me to have another child. Is she dreaming? As soon as she finished shouting, she turned her head and met my eyes. I felt that the expressions on both of their faces froze for a moment. Venus looked at me with some vigilance in her eyes, while Deceiver stared at me for a long time. Dr. Zhao Zhao beside me asked, Phoenix, that person has been looking at you. Do you two know each other? I said infuriately. No, I don't know him. But I didn't expect that when I was seeing patients in the afternoon. Deceiver appeared in front of me again. He handed something to me. Phoenix, I didn't dare to recognize you just now. I never thought that you really became a doctor. In such a big world. We can meet again. Is this considered fate? You know what? I made this when I thought of you in the village before. I looked at the crumpled bookmark made of a leaf and just felt like vomiting. I looked at the sign of the consulting room hanging on the door and then withdrew my gaze. Deceiver, I'm seeing patients here. As long as they are patients coming to see a doctor, they all have a connection with me. If you're not here to see a doctor, please turn right at the door and go downstairs. He said hesitantly. And can you take a look at me? I was speechless for a moment and knocked on the notice on the wall. I specialize in nephrology. Tell me, do you have frequent urination? Urgent urination? Or proteinuria? Do you need me to call a nurse in and insert a urinary catheter for you? Deceiver fled in a hurry. And behind him came the regretful voice of a nurse from the same department. TSK. 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 Is he so young and already suffering from this kind of disease? I sneered. He's sick all right. Suffering from a mental illness. Deceiver naturally didn't have a kidney disease. This time he came to see a doctor for infertility with Venus. I heard from people in the factory that Venus gave birth to a girl. And Deceiver's mother wasn't happy about it. After the birth, she urged the two of them to have another child. But unfortunately, Venus didn't have a good confinement period. Her menstruation was irregular. And after trying for several years, she still couldn't get pregnant. Later, after the family of 3 returned to the city and lived with Deceiver's mother, the conflicts gradually increased. Venus managed to find a temporary job in a herbal medicine factory through connections. It was considered a stable income and could help with the family expenses. But her job required working the night shift, so she often couldn't take care of the family. Occasionally, when she asked Deceiver's mother to look after their daughter, she would be criticized in every possible way. Deceiver's mother didn't do any housework at all, but was keen on urging them to have more children. Since Venus couldn't get pregnant, she urged them to go to the hospital. But it's not that easy to see a doctor for infertility. It not only costs money but also takes time. And Deceiver's mother just talked the talk. She couldn't even provide the money. And she didn't even want to look after the child when they went to the hospital. That's why Venus lost her temper in the hospital. But what's the use of getting angry? A few days later, I was seeing a patient when Deceiver suddenly burst in. His eyes were bloodshot. And he grabbed my arm. Phoenix, why didn't you stop me when I married Venus? You clearly knew that the person I wanted to marry was you. Both the old lady I was seeing a patient for and I were startled. Deceiver, what are you going crazy for? I tried to pull my hand back. But instead of letting go, he held it even tighter. You clearly loved me so much. You were always by my side no matter what. Why didn't you marry me? Phoenix, are you really concerned about Venus's existence? Well, I'll divorce her and marry you. Okay? After saying all this, not only was I stunned, but even the old lady who was having a consultation was shocked. I finally managed to pull my hand back and slapped him hard. Deceiver, can't you listen to what you're saying? Look at yourself now. Why on earth should I marry you? Because you don't have a job? Because you have no shame? He covered his cheek, looking utterly disbelieving. After a while, he suddenly pointed at me. Phoenix, are you also reborn? I sneered at him. It has nothing to do with you what I am. I'm just telling you that you don't deserve to say you want to marry me. You didn't deserve it before. And you deserve it even less now. Get out of here right now. Or when the security guards come, you'll have to go to the police station. The old lady beside me finally understood what was going on. She stood in front of me with her hands on her hips. That's right. You have nothing and you still want to marry Phoenix. You should take a good look at your ugly face. Deceiver was greatly stimulated. Even though I said those words to him, he still stood there muttering to himself. Finally, having fulfilled way, the security guards came and took him to the police station. The police station detained him for 15 days on the charges of disturbing public order and harassing women. I heard from people there that even when he was locked up, he kept mumbling my name and saying things like rebirth and fate that others couldn't understand. After hearing others relay this, I was completely sure that Deceiver had really been reborn. However, even if he was reborn and regretted it, so what? Some things can't be restored to the way they were just because of a rebirth. After coming out of the police station, Deceiver still didn't give up and came to find me again. But the security guards of the hospital had already been keeping an eye on him. As soon as he came, he would be mercilessly driven out. Since he couldn't enter the hospital, he could only wait for me at the gate of the factory. I wasn't on my guard and was stopped by him twice. Once, he stuffed a crumpled love letter into my hand. The words on it were so mushy that they made people feel sick. Once, he gave me a lily, which I directly threw into the trash can. The third time, when he stopped in front of me again and handed me a book with his head lowered, I pulled the person behind me forward. Venus's face gradually emerged from the shadows. It was getting dark, and I could hardly see her expression. But I could hear her trembling voice. Slow and broken. Deceiver. Didn't you tell me that you don't love her? But why are you doing these things to her again? She snatched the book from Deceiver's hand, and her voice trembled even more. You gave her stray birds? Deceiver. Do you remember? This is the poem you first recited to me in the village. Deceiver's lips also quivered for a long time. It seemed that he was recollecting the love between him and Venus into lifetimes. But in the end, he just gritted his teeth and said, Venus, I once thought I loved you. But in fact, it was just guilt. The person I really loved all along was. Slap. A loud slap landed on Deceiver's face, and a red mark quickly appeared on his cheek. Deceiver's face turned red with anger. But Venus was even more enraged. The two of them started to blame each other, shouting back and forth. Venus sobbed about how difficult it was for her after getting married and cursed Deceiver for being heartless. Deceiver couldn't stand being slapped and turned to scold Venus, calling her a hen that couldn't lay eggs. Looking at the two people who used to be affectionate, now cursing at each other like mortal enemies. The words Deceiver once said to me when he was on his deathbed in my previous life couldn't help but come to my mind. I questioned him why he was with Venus. And he just said infuriately, she is gentle, petite, and naive. How can she be like a woman like you, who is incredibly vulgar? I've tolerated you for a whole lifetime, and it's already very difficult. Do you really expect me to love you as much as I love her? I couldn't help but laugh. Deceiver seemed to think that as long as he divorced Venus, I would definitely forgive him and marry him. So he took the initiative to propose divorce to Venus. When Venus came to me with Daisy, her dry lips curved upwards, forming a bitter smile, he said that our marriage was a complete mistake from start to finish. But if he never loved me, why was he so good to me in the first place? Maybe he's just despicable? I said with a smile. Venus looked at me carefully and suddenly said, Phoenix, I really wish I could be as free and easy, cheerful, having fulfilled session, and carefree as you. But I didn't say anything. I knew that most of the conflicts between her and me in my previous life were because of Deceiver. Now that their marriage has failed, I no longer hold a grudge against Venus. However, I don't think I'm that generous to offer her emotional comfort. Seeing that I didn't speak, she continued, I went home yesterday, and my mother scolded me severely. After scolding me, today she said that a relative introduced a widower and asked me to go and meet him. Her voice was bitter. Phoenix, do you think we women must rely on men to live? That's you. Not all women. My words made Venus fall silent. She paused and then asked, if I leave, will you accept Deceiver? Before I could answer, she shook her head self-deprecating lie, I'm so stupid. He was so eager to divorce me. Wasn't it just to make room for you? After saying that, she walked back with Daisy while muttering to herself, what am I still expecting? For a long time after Venus left, My heart was still shocked by the words she had just said. When a woman acts foolishly, even divorce can't save her. I just hope that when Deceiver approaches her again, she won't be so stupid. Deceiver will indeed come to me. But by then, I should no longer be in this city. 2 weeks ago, the hospital selected doctors to support Tibet, and I have already signed up. What awaits me is a vast world. So where does he fit in? Ended the main text extra story Deceiver 1 after Phoenix left. I fell into a long period of silence. I don't understand. Phoenix cared so much about Venus in her previous life. Was it what she wanted for me to break up with Venus completely? But why? In this life, I divorced Venus cleanly. Yet she left? I don't understand. But I think in my heart that Phoenix just can't figure it out. When she does, she will come back to me. After being reborn, although I didn't go to university, didn't have a stable job, and didn't have a good unit, I have the memories of my previous life. I believe that with my intelligence and talent, even without going to university, I can create my own world. I'm going to start a business. However, without the initial capital, everything is more difficult than I imagined. I tried setting up a street stall, making snacks, and selling pirated CDs. But when I sold brass, people called me a pervert. The snack stall was overturned by hooligans, and they even demanded that I pay for their medical expenses. The CDs were confiscated all at once, and I ended up serving a year in prison. I wanted to invest in buying 1 or 2 commercial properties while the real estate market was booming. But no one was willing to lend me money. 10 years passed in a flash. It seemed that everyone else was living a good and stable life, while I was still living with my mother in a small 1-bedroom apartment, making no progress. 3 After seeing Phoenix in the hospital that day, I went home and lay in bed, not saying a word for a long time. My mind was full of Phoenix, whom I saw in the hospital during the day. I thought about how graceful she looked in her white coat and how focused and professional she was when seeing patients. I heard others say that she has a high education. She graduated with a master's degree from a prestigious university. At a young age, she is already an associate chief physician in the department of nephrology, with a bright future. I really regret it. If I hadn't brought Venus with me when I entered the city, could I have married Phoenix? Right? The person who should have gone to university and achieved success in their career should have been me. Deceiver. It's all Venus's fault. She just had to get pregnant at that time. I was so busy taking care of her that I didn't have time to review properly. And in the end, I failed the exam. And next year, the child was born. I was caught between my mother and my wife. So I simply gave up on the college entrance examination. And then, there was no peace at home. And the starting point of all these mistakes was getting married to Venus. For the sound of Venus and my mother arguing came from outside the door again. One said there was no flour left, and the other sarcastically asked why it hadn't been bought. My mother brought up Phoenix again. She implied that Venus couldn't compare to Phoenix, and said that I had married the wrong person. Venus burst into tears directly. Mom, if you really look down on me, I'll just take Daisy and leave. I definitely won't hold Deceiver back. My mother also wailed, I'm just telling the truth. If it weren't for you, a jinx, I would have been enjoying a good life already. Would I still be worrying about every penny? I couldn't stand it anymore. I burst into the room, clenched my fists, and slammed them on the table. Stop talking. There was silence. Just go away. 5 Our relatives are having less and less contact with us. Those from whom we borrowed money won't even let me step into their houses. They're all snobbish fools. I don't want to see any of those stupid people. They can't see that I just need one opportunity. Just one boost. And I can soar. Why won't they help me? I'm feeling so frustrated. But unexpectedly, it's like when it rains. It pours. My mother got sick. When she went out that day, she saw Venus standing with her remarried husband. She was so excited that she had a cerebral hemorrhage. When she woke up, she was already half paralyzed. I didn't have the money to treat her illness. I could only drag her home after she woke up. I thought to myself that if Phoenix were here, things wouldn't have turned out like this. After all, in my previous life, my mother loved food with heavy oil and salt. But because of Phoenix's meticulous care, my mother was still alive even after I died. 6. Come to think of it, Phoenix's current medical skills are also partly due to taking care of the elderly. By the way, Phoenix. Why hasn't Phoenix come back yet? I want to go find her. But I don't have the money, and I still have to take care of my mother at home. I can only wait for her to come back. The days of taking care of the elderly are tough. The endless mess of excrement and urine. The gloomy room. It all seems like there's no end in sight. Whenever it's hard to bear, I think of Phoenix again and the things that happened between us in my previous life. In my previous life, I never had to worry about these things. Phoenix could handle them all by herself. But at that time, why didn't I praise her more? I think that when Phoenix comes back, I must read these heartfelt words to her, along with the poems I wrote for her. I endured the hardships by my mother's sickbed for 2 long years, until she passed away. Finally, having fulfilled my Phoenix came back. And this time she came back with her husband and child. I heard that her husband is also a doctor who supported Tibet. He saved Phoenix in an earthquake. And the 2 of them got together. This time they came back. They were planning to settle down here. However, I don't believe it. I don't believe what they said. I was married for so long. And Phoenix didn't get married. She must have been waiting for me. I heard that Phoenix was going to speak as a model for supporting Tibet at a conference. So I immediately put on my clothes and went to find her. As long as I find her and ask, our misunderstanding can be cleared up. I believe that no matter what stands between us, the 2 of us will eventually be together. I ran to see her, not paying any attention to the honking of the horn behind me. By the time I realized it, it was too late. A sudden sharp pain. Then, went out a lull sigh. I watched as my blood spurted out. I watched as my body flipped 180 degrees in the air. I watched as my head hit the ground heavily. And red and white things flowed out, spreading all over the ground. I suddenly felt very relaxed. But, Phoenix? I haven't gone to find you yet. Why can't I find you anymore? End of the full text.